I'm Robert White. We're here at Bob White Insurance Agency on behalf of the Jefferson County Political Activists Facebook page. And I have with me tonight Mike Young, candidate for City Council. Mike, welcome.
Glad to be here.
Tell us a little bit about yourself and why you're running for City Council.
Well, first of all, I'm a lifelong resident of Mount Vernon. I've lived here for 63 years. Born and raised here, went to all the schools here. It's my hometown. I love it. I care a lot for it. With my son now graduating college, I look for something else to do, and this really started back in the original water sell-off, and that's where I came up with the transparency and honesty part of my platform, was because I didn't really like the way that the current board was handling things with the public at that time. So that's where I adopted the transparency and honesty right off the bat. Okay. I just tell the people that I'm just like them. I'm one of them. I've lived here forever. I pay the same taxes they pay. I have the same bills they pay. I have the same frustrations they pay. You know, I'm a citizen. My relatives struggle. You know, my wife, Monica, and I, our parents struggle. You know, I'm just no different than anybody else out there that I decided to run and serve and try to help.
Okay. All right, so we have some questions here, and I'd like to start off with, we hear a lot about transparency. It seems communication is lacking when it comes to governing boards. What is your plan and commitment to ensure that any actions you propose is clearly communicated to the citizens of Mount Vernon?
I think we need to be upfront with everybody and honest. There again, with the previous council, I don't think that took place. I want the citizens, I feel the citizens should trust the council, and to do that, we have to talk with them, they have to talk with us. We have to have a two-way form of communication going and somebody listening. So one of the things you hear me say from time to time is, I want to be a voice in the ear for the citizens of Mount Vernon. That's what I want to do. I want to listen to what they want, what concerns them, and then relay that to the council should I be elected. Outside that, we'll use the water again, for example, but I just think that wasn't presented well to the public. I think it was a surprise to a lot of people, and therefore I would like to cover a lot more ground when we're going to make a decision like that, using newspaper, radio, social media, even maybe a Facebook page of all things, and a website or whatever. But I just think we need to communicate as well as we can.
Okay, very good. What are your priorities when it comes to infrastructure for the city of Mount Vernon?
Well, honestly, I don't think the infrastructure has been managed that well. One thing that I'd like to do right off the bat is just rescind that meter fee. A lot of people didn't want it. It's not a big thing. It's something we can do to give elderly and people and fixed income a little bit of relief real fast. It's not a big deal in the big scheme of things as far as the water goes. I think we need to do an acoustical study of the entire water and sewer system, excuse me, and find out where the problems are and target those, so we're not just out there throwing money. Excuse me, I got a little cold.
Fine.
And we're actually working on the worst areas first that we need to take care of. So I think we need to do that. I'm not for any more hikes this time. I think that there should be sufficient funds with the 40% markup that the water that we're shoving on to everybody else. And after we get that acoustical study, then develop a comprehensive plan, something that we can monitor and measure and see how it's doing. And then if we need to make another change, then let's make it. But at the time being, I'm not for throwing any more money from the outsider on the taxpayer at the water and infrastructure.
Okay. So the next question I've got is, again, with priorities, we hear a lot about quality of life. What are your priorities when it comes to quality of life?
Well, I think all those are important. And I was a kid once, so I know like parks, and that's where I live by the parks, so I spend a lot of time there. I understand all that stuff's important. My view at this current time is that with us being $85 million in debt, that everything's on the table. So, you know, bike trails, anything straight across the board, not just in the parks and recreational arena, have to be cut or trimmed back, or whatever needs to be done to work on this debt, because we can't allow the $85 million to just keep going.
Okay. There is much discussion about the amount of debt. You just addressed that, accrued in the past 8 years. Regardless whether you agree what the money was spent on, what is your plan to ensure that this is paid back? Have you identified any other ways that this debt can be paid back sooner, or the bond debt retired sooner?
Well, as of right now, that money's disappeared out of the economy. You know, it's gone for all practical purposes. And now we're even mandated by the state to repay on the pension side of it, that unfunded part. So that's at least $1 million a year we'll have to kick back out to. So we've got to stop the increase in the debt. There again, the word everybody doesn't like to hear, cuts and prioritizing expenses and projects that we have going on. So second, we're going to be very aggressive on growth, on business, and possibly even consolidate in some areas within the city, county, and those sort of things, equipment, facilities, whatever we need to do. But the growth we can do by enticing businesses to the new areas that we do have infrastructure in. Then I'm also for looking at the other areas in town, like north of town, south of town, east of town, where there's a lot less expensive property that we can get people to come in and set up a small business or something, as opposed to everything having to go out west. So, and then as far as on the west side, I mean, I'm very pro-growth. I think we got to get income coming in. I mean, money is the only thing that's going to solve it. We can't cut our way to prosperity, and we can't borrow our way to prosperity. So we'll have to get income coming in. What I would like to see on the Davidson side is from Coles on around, redefine that. I think right now it's primarily warehousing. I would like to see that be more set up for retail, food, restaurants, anything that will bring business in to increase the income for the city. Everything revolves around cash flow, and I think that's what we got to increase.
Okay. So, moving on to the next hot topic, as it were, the Armory. We know that the state of Illinois has offered to put $1.5 million into this facility if the city puts an additional $500,000 into it. What is your stance on this facility?
I feel that it's a project that certain people want, and I think it's really a want more than a need. It's evident they want to move ahead and are moving ahead with the project, but as far as I can tell, there's no concrete plan for the use of it, what the actual end cost of it's going to be, and the end cost of what it's going to cost to operate it afterwards. So once it is set up, you know, who are they going to put in there? Who's going to use it? You know, is it going to be air conditioned and heated year round and only used 40% of the time? You know, those are questions. I totally disagree with the $50,000 for a project manager for a project that size. It's totally unnecessary. The only thing we really need is an architect and a general contractor. That's also needed for a project that size. That's just throwing $50,000 away. And at this point in time, I just feel like a project of that type and size should be critiqued very heavily.
Okay. All right, next question, and you've kind of alluded to that in one of your prior responses. We hear a lot about growth, both in jobs and population. What is your plan for each and your priority to get there?
Well, I think, they're both ultimately tied together. So from the outside, I feel that we need to be viewed as a positive way socially. In other words, Mount Vernon needs to be a place that people want to come and work and live in. One big hold up in that I see is our crime reputation. It's not good. There's progress being made in it, substantial progress. I think on the positive side, sitting at an intersection nationally and two interstates coming through, we just need to be aggressive and try to attract a wide variety of businesses there again in retail and manufacturing, and redefining that Davidson Road area. I think our attitude really should be, what can we do to get people here, and then go to work hard at getting that done.
Okay. The city makes financial commitments to various entities. What are your commitments to some of them, including Jefferson County Development Corporation, Downtown Development, and the Convention and Tourism Department? With that in mind, do you prefer a public-private structure or strictly a governmental structure?
A little bit of both, actually. I could see the tourism, a deal being worked out with the chamber to combine those two. I have no problem with the other two staying where they're at and working with the city to progress and to grow.
Okay, very good. We hear a lot about unfunded pension liabilities, and you kind of alluded to that here a minute ago with the debt, especially in the state of Illinois. With that in mind, we know that our own fire and police pensions are currently underfunded. Do you have a plan to address this issue if you're elected?
Well, the only thing I can really say about pensions are that they're dragging many states and municipalities down. And as far as local governments go, I think we're really, our hands are tied. A lot of that stuff is legislated at the government level. So there again, and it's contract between two private parties. So I think that best, we could lobby legislative people, or go to them and try to seek help, for the community. And then if both parties involved would agree, then we could negotiate something new. But somewhere along the line, that has to be addressed. It's I forget the exact 23 million, 28 million or something like that.
We're talking real money there.
Yeah, a lot of money.
Okay. We've been hearing a lot about the closure of 7th Street for the rail transfer operation. Where do you stand on this issue and why?
Well, in the beginning, I never was involved in it, I'll be honest with you. I didn't pay a whole lot of attention to the closing or anything. Recently, with all this stuff in social media, I've got to be a little bit more involved in it. By what I've seen, and being in and out of that area quite a bit, and the activity that's visible, I would have to be inclined that the road was closed prematurely. That would be my view on it. There again, I think how the city government handled that, I don't think was quite right. Evidently, there was not enough promotion of it. I know there's supposedly workshops that took place, all this information out there and meetings and stuff, but somehow there was a disconnect between the public and the city on that deal. Should it be a big deal this far after the fact? No. So if all I can say is at this point in time, if we get in, new council will have to look and see what the agreements are, the legal commitments, and what can actually be done. Then that information needs to be formally presented to the people that are concerned about it and want it open. But I'm not for it being pro-closed, and I'm not against Milano or whoever growing business, and if that's what it's going to do. But there again, from what I'm seeing, I just think the road could be open and we could not be having this big fuss that we're having right now. But.
Okay. So please tell us what you view as the strengths and opportunities that the city has, and what you will do to build on these.
Well, there again, I think we're in the middle of the country, and we're at an intersection of two main interstates, and I think just one little small example is the JCSA, who for the last couple of years have had the P&O World Series here. One of those reasons that is being held here is because it is in the middle of the country. And those guys went and lobbied for it and got it. And bring it here, and then hotels are full, people eating in restaurants. I even know that they're going to movies. A lot of stuff they're doing here while they're here, and I heard the term or the amount of like 1.7 million during the last, I don't know if that figure is accurate or not, but if so, that's a pretty good weekend or a week worth of activity for the city. So I think we need to build on our location. We've got plenty of room for business expansion. We've got land all around both interstate exits now to build and go out. And I just think if we work with the chamber and the local agencies like JCSA to bring these type of events in there and business in, then I think we can do real well.
Okay, so leading into that, from that question into this, what do you identify as the weaknesses and threats that face Mount Vernon?
Okay, one of them already named was the crime and drug issue. Although that's not unique to us in Illinois, in Southern Illinois, or even in the nation, but still yet, if you want people to come in, it's a problem. There again, I think Sheriff Allen and Chris Dyken are doing an excellent job. I mean, they're really putting some pressure on these people and cleaning up that activity. And I think that's really good. I think we need to be more of a community. I think my feeling is by focusing so much on the west side over all these years, and I think that's great. I'm not against that. I just think by listening to other people talk in council meetings and places that we've got a little bit of a disconnect, that there's people who feel like they really aren't a part of the city anymore, that they've been either left out, left behind. And that was one of my points when I stood at the council once, and it was also in my closing notes last night, is the neighborhood I lived in as a child was right at the park. And it was not it was a great neighborhood, but it wasn't a fancy neighborhood, but everything was clean. I would say like a little Ozzie and Herrick, even driveways were painted and flowers and nice. Well, even my neighborhood now is starting to look like some of the places that these other people are complaining about, and that's a legitimate complaint. I mean, so I think we have probably left some people behind that we need to get back to be a cohesive community. Would be something that I think is a little bit negative, not bad, but I think we need to work in that area. So I think that, and paying attention to other parts of town is important.
Okay. So we know that we're going to have a new mayor, regardless. Mm-hmm. We also know that there will be at least 2 new city councilmen. So I'm sure you've had an opportunity to meet with some of the other candidates and the existing city councilmen or the incumbents. What are your thoughts on working with the people that could be elected, if you're elected as well?
Yeah, well, as a state, I decided to run a couple of years ago, and I didn't make it by a day. So I had to wait 2 years to get in this one. So back to one of my first comments is I'm running as a concerned citizen and as somebody that loves Mount Vernon. That's pretty much it. I have, as we talked, I'm not a politician. Don't intend to be a politician either. And you want to talk drums? We probably got a point to talk about there. But I'm well aware of that a person that I'm not necessarily supporting could end up in the mayoral position. I may not end up in the council position, but I'm well aware of that, and I'm well aware of the fact that, you know, I could be sitting across from and working with somebody that I didn't plan to, and I've got no problem with that. I pretty much, my own person, the way it goes anyway, I pretty much say what I think most of the time. A lot of people tell you, and I'm pretty upfront, and I can't see my vote changing. I don't see my vote changing if John Lewis is mayor or Dante Moore is mayor. Either one of them. I mean, I'm probably still going to vote the same way. So
Okay.
that's that.
All right. Well, those are the questions. So now we have an opportunity to have you say why people should vote for you for city council, Mike.
Well, I think there again, I'm sincere about going for this position. I don't do anything knee-jerk. I'm not running for the council position out of a knee-jerk reaction. I do have a lot of experience dealing with situations. I've got the 24 years in operations. Ran, well, 2 branches. One of them was the second largest in the company for a $63 million chemical company, and that when serviced ADM, Caterpillar, Morgan Distributing, and large companies. And then I was later promoted to Director of Operations over 7 branches in 4 states. So I've been responsible for managing people, transportation, equipment, hiring, firing, budgets, presenting budgets, maintaining budgets, adhering to budgets, dealing with numbers, maybe not as large numbers as some of the people that I run against have, but maybe a couple of zeros and stuff. But a lot of experience doing that. I just think I can do a good job for the city of Mount Vernon. I'm going to do a sincere job for the city of Mount Vernon. I'm going to do a good job for all the citizens of Mount Vernon. I'm not going to do it just for a group or a certain area. I'm here to represent everybody in Mount Vernon.
Okay. Mike, appreciate you coming here, and I'm very impressed. You obviously are battling a cold, and you've soldiered through this, and I appreciate it. And I know the people watching this will as well.
All right. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
All right.